Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. Billions of packages of so-called cheap goods shipped to the United States are now subject to steep tariffs. A loophole that had reshaped the way countless Americans shopped expired early today. Michael Yoshida reports on what it could mean for you.
A big change for American customers looking to buy low-value goods from abroad. After nearly a century, the de minimis rule, which has allowed some packages to enter the United States duty-free or exempt from certain taxes, is no more.
It's a massive impact.
Since 2015, the exemption applied to packages worth less than $800, allowing ultra-low-cost e-commerce sites to take off, as they sold and shipped everything from clothing to furniture to electronics directly to American shoppers.
In 2012, there was only $50 million of inventory entered the U.S. under this exemption. And last year, that was over $65 billion.
Now, following this latest trade move from the Trump administration, all imported goods, regardless of value, are subject to 10 to 50% tariff rates, depending on their country of origin, or in some cases, a flat fee of $80 to $200, but just for the next 6 months. As a result, a slew of delivery services from countries across the world have suspended shipping some small packages to the U.S.
It is probable that you may see not only delays in those packages getting here even farther, but often start to see items pop up in the cart saying, here's the new fee for the effective duties and tariffs.
So what could be impacted? Trendy sunscreens and serums from Korean beauty websites, matcha from online Japanese vendors, and even recently popular tinned fish from European sites. A potential benefit to some American small businesses.
What they're trying to do is to have people buy local. Whether that's realistically possible, we'll have to see.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida, KPBS News.
A milestone for ending the cross-border sewage crisis has been achieved. The federal government says it has increased the capacity of a wastewater treatment plant at the border by 10 million gallons per day. Maria Elena Heiner is the former commissioner of the U.S. International Boundary and Water Commission. The agency oversees the plant. She says this expansion is good news for the Tijuana River region.
The increase in the capacity will ensure that there won't be water transboundary flows in the river, which is what directly impacts water quality in the ocean and consequently closes the beaches during the dry season.
The increase in wastewater treatment from 25 million gallons per day to 35 million is expected to begin in the coming weeks. A larger expansion to treat 50 million gallons is expected to be complete by December 2027.
Well, we have beautiful weather tonight. There will be some patchy fog and some low clouds that return to areas along the coast and to places near La Jolla or Solano Beach down into San Diego. And we'll be bottoming out around 74 in Borrego Springs, typically a warm spot. But Saturday, we're going to begin to see a drying trend with more in the way of heat building. Temperatures are going to be up for the weekend. Also rough surf. We'll talk about the whole forecast scenario coming up.
Governor Gavin Newsom has announced a new task force. He did that today to clear homeless encampments in California's 10 largest cities, including San Diego. Newsom's office says the State Action for Facilitation on Encampments, or SAFE task force, will coordinate programs across state agencies. The goal is to work with local governments to move people into temporary shelter and permanent housing. The task force is set to begin within 30 days. San Diego County has finished renovations on a safe parking site for people who are homeless in the East County. 17 spaces are available at the Magnolia Safe Parking Lot in unincorporated El Cajon. The county says the lot is now much better suited to host families and single people. There are new permanent bathrooms and showers, an upgraded picnic area, improved meeting space, and a new area for dogs. Director of the County Office of Homeless Solutions, Deanna Beck, says the county realizes different unhoused people need different kinds of help.
It's for a specific type of household that is experiencing homelessness in their vehicles. However, we have our regional homeless assistance program, which is a hotel program that we use region-wide for people experiencing homelessness in the unincorporated communities.
Beck says services are on site to help connect people to permanent housing. She says the county has been able to get 40% of folks using the safe parking lots into permanent housing. It's become almost impossible to pursue asylum in the U.S. President Joe Biden limited access last June, and President Donald Trump essentially terminated the program this year. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis profiles one man trying to navigate the system.
Last summer, migrants from all over the world crossed the border in San Diego. There were so many that Border Patrol agents dropped dozens of them off at a San Ysidro Transit Center every day. The county's emergency migrant shelter had shut down. It ran out of money, leaving them with nowhere to stay. That's when Ruth Mendez met Luis. She's an immigrant advocate, and he's a South American asylum seeker. We're withholding his last name to protect him from retaliation both here and in his home country.
I remember meeting Luis for the first time getting off of one of the buses that at the time was when Border Patrol was releasing people.
Luis became homeless, spent a week sleeping in the airport until he found temporary housing at a local Catholic church. Still, he decided to help other migrants who struggled to find a place in San Diego. Mendez says that having someone like Luis there gave advocates instant credibility.
And really tell people, hey, I was in your position. These folks are actually like to be trusted. If you want, you can follow her. You're going to go to the airport for free.
Luis's year-long case spans one of the most uncertain times in the history of the U.S. asylum system. He arrived in August 2024, soon after the Biden administration bowed to political pressure and placed strict limits on asylum. And his case remains ongoing after the Trump administration essentially stopped the asylum process and began arresting people at their immigration court hearings. Melissa Crow is the director of litigation at the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, which has sued both the Biden and Trump administrations.
And they have peeled back the rights of asylum seekers like an onion.
Crow says that back in June 2024, Biden made all migrants who crossed the border illegally presumed ineligible for asylum. Previously, everyone who entered the country had equal access to the asylum system, no matter how they entered. Then, in his first days in office, Trump cracked down even harder.
These restrictions that we've been talking about, the circumvention of lawful pathways rule and the securing the border rule, in most cases, take asylum off the table.
Fortunately for Luis, he entered the country before Trump's crackdown, so he could still try to pursue an asylum claim. But by the time he got to see a judge, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents were arresting people at immigration courts. Mendez was worried about Luis, so she offered to go to the San Diego Immigration Court with him.
At the beginning of the week, we heard of LA immigration courts, San Francisco immigration courts, having ICE inside the courtrooms, and so that was really worrying.
Luis did not see any ICE agents in the courtroom, but when he left to go to the bathroom, he saw the hallway was full of them.
Pues me asomé y estaban todos ahí esperando en fila. Entonces yo me devolví.
He remembers thinking how odd this was. It's as if the federal government wants people to abandon their cases.
Le quita mucha credibilidad a los procesos acá porque uno dice, bueno, yo quiero hacer algo, entonces para qué me pongo a hacer las cosas bien si al fin y al cabo me van a hacer.
Luis was among the first to be arrested in San Diego's immigration court. Local immigration lawyer Tracy Crowley met him at the courthouse on the day of his arrest. She was blown away by how well prepared Luis was for his asylum claim, but that was still not enough to keep him out of detention.
He completed everything they asked him to do, and he showed up when he was supposed to show up, and that's exactly why they targeted him, because they knew where he would be.
Luis saw his imprisonment at the Otay Mesa Detention Center as a particularly cruel irony. He was a political dissident in his home country and fled specifically to avoid being jailed. Despite having a strong asylum claim, Luis thought about giving up.
And so it was very difficult to keep his spirits up and to keep him motivated, because I knew I could get him out on bond. And I knew he had a really strong asylum case.
Luis says he felt like a robot during his time at Otay Mesa. An endless and mindless routine of eating, sleeping, and waiting.
La cárcel ahí es feo porque se vuelve uno como un muñeco, como un robot.
He says the men there are miserable, that it's common to hear them cry themselves to sleep at night. And the guards are constantly pressuring detainees to sign voluntary departure forms and abandon their cases. But after 6 weeks, Crowley secured his release on bond. Luis is still pursuing a political asylum claim and is due back in court, the same place he was arrested just a few months ago, in September. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Former San Diego Congressman Randy Duke Cunningham has died at the age of 83. According to numerous reports, he died Wednesday in a hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, from an undisclosed illness. Cunningham, a decorated Navy fighter pilot in Vietnam, was later disgraced by a bribery conviction for which he served more than 8 years. He was released from prison in 2013 and later pardoned by President Trump in 2021. Today marks the 55th anniversary of the Chicano Moratorium in Los Angeles, a protest by thousands against the Vietnam War. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers shows us how a local museum is commemorating the movement.
Gaspar Luna Oliveira remembers the day vividly. Saturday, August 29th, 1970.
What was supposed to be a day of solidarity with families, having a get-together, having speakers and some entertainment, turned out to be a nightmare. It wasn't a people's riot. It was a police riot.
20 to 30,000 Chicanos protested in East LA against the disproportionate death rate of Mexican Americans in the Vietnam War. At the same time, Oliveira was president of the San Diego State University chapter of Mecha, the group focused on Latino pride and unity.
And so we organized a coalition, if you will, of Mechas in San Diego County, and probably over 1,000 of us went to LA.
The 1970 protest started peacefully but ended in violence. Hundreds of people were arrested and 3 people were killed, according to the Library of Congress. Oliveira's whole family was at the protest.
We formed a human chain to keep the cops from beating up our families. It was intense. These large had their badges removed, riot helmets, batons. I got hit in the head. I went down. My friends pulled me out.
Sonia Lopez was there too.
We didn't expect to be tear gassed or to run for our lives. I remember when all that started, you know, we freaked out, we got gas, it burns when you get tear gas. We just ran to people's houses and stopped knocking the door because the police were moving in on us, helicopters, the whole thing. And people were opening the doors to let you in so you wouldn't get hurt.
Lopez and Oliveira agree that similar issues that sparked the moratorium are still relevant today.
We have a right to speak out. And right now, when I see the ICE officials with their mask and their vest and their guns and all that all over the country, it's an intimidation. It's instilling fear in Americans, and democracy is in peril.
Tonight, the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center is opening an exhibition called Fragmentos del Barrio. Artist Ramses Noriega co-founded the Chicano Moratorium. He says their movement inspired the next generation.
It was not just anti-war, anti-police brutality movement, anti-immigration exploitation persecution movement. okay? Anti-redlining movement. And so what happened, suddenly, even little chicanitos like this, little kids, they wanted to go to university.
Noriega hopes the exhibit educates the community and provides Chicanos a sense of pride and hope. The exhibition will be on display at the museum through the end of February. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Lucky's Breakfast has closed after nearly 50 years in North Park. Owner Lucky Wong was a legend, serving breakfast to diners well into his 80s. The Finest podcast producer Anthony Wallace shows how the community is honoring his legacy and what's next for the place.
Lucky Wong's celebration of life was packed. One of his regulars estimated about 200 people attended. More than half of them were customers. They were like one big extended family. Lucky's daughter, June Wong, knows many of them well.
I think that's the thing for people. It's not just missing my dad. I mean, that's part of it, but also a place where they gather, where they build community together. Because just like, would be like a school closing down or a church closing down. That's what they're mourning for. Yeah, this place where, where they have memories.
Now, a new restaurant is moving in where Lucky's once stood. Brian Foxworth Jr. runs Mom's Chicken and Waffles with his parents.
Everybody in the community loved Lucky. They loved the location. They went there to support him. And then when that spot came open, he told us about it. I was like, oh, we have to do what we can to see if we can get that location.
Foxworth says a bidding war broke out for the spot, and his family couldn't compete financially.
Because there were a lot of other businesses that were coming in, putting in big offers. And we're a small business. So we don't have, deep pockets like these other guys were asking. We sat down with the owners and told them our concept and who we were, and they liked us and our brand, and that it was family owned and can continue what Lucky had going.
The Foxworths are busy renovating, but they're being careful not to change too much.
The old school dining look of it, that's going to stay. The seating's going to stay. We're pretty much just getting new flooring and putting some paint on the walls. We're also going to have a Lucky special that we'll keep going. Potatoes, the bacon, and the eggs with a side of toast. So we'll keep that going for the locals and just to honor Lucky's legacy.
That legacy also lives on with the block's new ceremonial street name. With community support and San Diego City Council approval, the street is now called Lucky Lane.
3804 Lucky Lane. I love that. That's beautiful.
Mom's Chicken and Waffles is set to open by December. You can hear more memories about Lucky and his diner on The Finest, wherever you get your podcasts. Anthony Wallace, KPBS News.
How will construction work change in the future? KPBS Sci-Tech reporter Thomas Fudge says a new course at San Diego State provides some clues.
Construction work requires workers, cranes, and power tools. But what about advanced technology? San Diego State just got a $4.5 million grant to train people to work in the industry, people who can find ways that technology can solve some problems, like low productivity in construction.
Labor productivity has grown only by about 1% annually for the past 2 decades. This is compared to a 2.8% average for the entire world economy, or if you want to compare it with a sister industry, manufacturing, that number is 3.5, I think.
Reza Akhavian is a professor of engineering at San Diego State and the principal investigator for the National Science Foundation grant. He says robots can work 24/7, and they can do physical tasks that would be unsafe or injurious for humans. He says robots are making their way into construction work, but there is a lot more they could do.
We envision a future of work where robots can lay bricks, for example, or robots can help with overhead installations and things of that nature.
Robots are already reviewing sites to create construction layouts that indicate the optimal placement of walls, plumbing, and so on. Akhavian says artificial intelligence could effectively take over planning tasks in a worksite office.
Creating look-ahead schedules, or maybe adjusting the schedule based on the data that you collect, having a better estimate. It's very important. Construction is a bid-based industry, so it's very important to have a good estimate. All these could be influenced positively by AI.
He says humans still play a vital role in construction and technology could empower them to do a better job. We contacted the Carpenters Union for a response, but they would not comment on this story. Akvarian says the SDSU training program would ultimately offer a master's degree. The program goes by an acronym that's pronounced Cyber City. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Labor Day is the unofficial end of summer, and thousands are expected to travel through San Diego International Airport to squeeze in one last trip. If you're among them, take advantage of the new roadway to the airport. It doesn't have intersections or lights, making for a quicker, smoother ride. Officials told our media partner KGTV it hasn't been as busy as other holidays like July 4th.
So what we're anticipating during the 4-day period is about 300,000 people coming and going through the airport. So really, we encourage people to plan ahead, always plan ahead. Make sure you give yourself enough time to get to the airport.
Officials also say while it's going to be sunny in San Diego, be aware storms may cause delays if you're headed to places like Houston, Dallas, or Atlanta.
It was great to see a little bit of rain out there earlier this week. Thursday, we picked up to 3/4 of an inch of rain in some of the high elevations. A lot of us with a bit less than that, but 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of rain in more communities in inland San Diego County. We did okay with a little bit of moisture from former Tropical Storm Juliet. As we take a look at the drying out trend, though, it was beneficial rain. We're going to be dry for the weekend. Now, one concern, there are some advisories and statements out there from the National Weather Service, which we're in agreement with about coastal concerns here. The rough surf, several feet wave heights there, rough surf and also dangerous rip currents. So beware if you're a swimmer or a surfer. There are some extra concerns out there this holiday weekend. And next week, we'll have some spotty mountain thunderstorms and showers returning, especially in inland San Diego County around midweek. Tonight, though, clear skies, 68 for your low. Some patchy fog will return later this weekend during the nighttime hours into the early morning. But Saturday, a very warm one. We're looking good out there. A beautiful day. Turning a little hotter, though, in the coming days. So Borrego Springs back up to 105, Ramona 94, San Diego 81, Chula Vista 81, and atop Mount Laguna, we're looking at a high of 73 with a little bit of extra elevation under your feet. Very warm on Sunday. We're dry. There will be some spotty areas of fog that make their way a little bit farther inland. But I wanted to show you this. We're going to take a look deeper into next week. So we're going to press pause once on Monday just to give you kind of the sense that there won't be a whole lot changing. Dry weather winds out into the early part of the week. But later on next week, look at this. Some extra moisture begins to increase here in Southern California. And by Thursday, we could see some scattered showers and even a thunderstorm into the mountains. So the coastal forecast warming up into the mid-80s here. Pretty warm, some morning fog, then some sunshine. Inland areas rising to 96 on Tuesday. Very bright, very warm. Taking you into the mountains there, you can see very warm, nice weather, but not too hot here in the high elevations. Take plenty of water if you're going to do any hiking. Look out for a little more cloud cover Tuesday. And keep in mind, by Thursday of next week, we'll have a better chance for some scattered thunderstorms as temperatures come down just a bit. For AccuWeather, I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
If you're looking for movies this week, KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando says look no further than San Diego's Digital Gym Cinema for diverse choices.
Your week's movie choices begin and end at Digital Gym Cinema. First up, the documentary The Waiting Game opens with exciting archival footage of the Renegade American Basketball Association, or ABA.
Today's NBA game is 100% an iteration of what the ABA players started in 1967.
As the ABA won over fans with fast-paced action, the NBA took notice. In 1976, the NBA brokered a deal to absorb 4 ABA teams. But the fallout from that so-called merger left the mostly black players in a long battle for fair compensation and recognition from the NBA.
There are these former players out there who set the table at which you have people today making $30 and $40 million a year. What are we going to do for them? Because this is bigger than basketball. What are you going to do?
Scott Tarter did something. He co-founded the Dropping Dimes Foundation and took on the NBA to give these ABA players what they deserved. Michael Hussein's excellent documentary follows Tarter as he tries to get meetings with the NBA and persuade current players to join the fight.
We got players born in 2000, 2003, 2004, so they haven't really been exposed to a lot of the history of the game unless they've searched it. Unless certain things are brought to your attention at times, you're not going to honestly truly be aware.
The waiting game highlights a heartbreaking story that's still not fully resolved. It gives us an appreciation for how the ABA shaped pro basketball and a reminder that there are still wrongs to be righted. I love that art house distributor Kino Lorber sees value in restoring and theatrically distributing films that some might dismiss as lowbrow. B-movies and grindhouse films deserve to be reclaimed from the margins and celebrated. Digital Gym Cinema fully supports this with its Tuesday screening of the gritty grindhouse gem, Night of the Juggler. Shot on location, Night of the Juggler captures New York in 1980 so viscerally that you can feel the grime and muggy heat. At the opposite end of the cinematic spectrum is 3D animator Julian Glander's first feature, Boys Go to Jupiter. This playful, surreal coming-of-age tale displays visual wonder and occasional sharp cultural observations, but also a bit of self-absorption.
How long is this conversation going to go on for? I don't mean to be rude. I'm just wondering.
Point taken. Boys Go to Jupiter is fresh and fun, and I appreciated how smart it could be. Still, I felt removed from the demographic, as well as the chill vibes, dream pop score, and lead character. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you all for joining us. I'm John Carroll. Have an excellent evening and a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.